Moshe coming to you from Israel in the Galilee, just making sure we got a good live stream going, and it appears that we do. Okay. Oh, today's December 1st. Our high is going to be 70 degrees today, which I guess if you live in Russia, you'd be going swimming, but it's kind of getting chilly for us. The house is rather cold. In terms of knee, the tooth thing, the gums, the swelling is way, way, way down. I got a little swelling in the skin area down here, which is where the bottom of the gum is. I took herbs yesterday, colloidal silver and anti-inflammatory Voltaren, is the common name, pills. And I think it may be a little bit with a medicine head today, but I could actually chew on it if I wanted to. And I understand that if your pain keeps decreasing, you don't have an infection. If you have an infection, it keeps increasing. So maybe I never really had an infection. I don't know. So anyway, I curtailed the herbs for now. But the anti-inflammatories are a good thing. But I'm just taking them. Well, I think I could take some during the day today, but it's pretty nice taking it at night. It gives me a good rest. It's pretty good. They're not you know like opioid or anything like that. So, but I'm kind of sensitive to any kind of medicine usually. So it got me. I took some mushroom stuff this morning. I just stumbled across an old bottle I had, and I said, "Oh, let's try this." And I just took that for the heck of it. Usually, I don't experience any reaction to mushrooms or echinacea. I have a bottle of echinacea here, but I can't find it. I think I do, but I don't know where it is. That's the problem. Uh, so that's what you get when you live in houses without closets and without drawers, and it's very, very bad. The way they build houses, I never understood that. And I don't know. They copy the Europeans. The electricity isn't American; it's European. The driving signs are European, and I don't know. Okay, so anyway, it looks like Trump's going to attack Venezuela. I'd say any day. And I found a few reasons why he delayed the attack, and we'll go through that. The Netanyahu pardon process is really moving, and Trump is saying he might put sanctions on the judicial people in Israel if they don't let him get pardoned. Now, who put Trump in charge? You see, this is the hammer of the whole earth and the great voice in Jeremiah 50:51. This is the daughter of Babylon. And again, with him in Venezuela, did Venezuela attack the United States? No. Because they got a dictator selling drugs. Well, what do you think's been going on um, in Mexico for about 65 years? Well, maybe less. Maybe no. I think it started around 65 with the marijuana mostly, and that's 35 plus. Yeah, about 60 years they've been pushing drugs. Did he ever do anything to Mexico? No. Uh-uh. No. Asia's been selling heroin all around the world for, probably 100 years. Mexico sells all kinds of other drugs. So what's going on, Maduro's got oil. 90% of Maduro's oil gets sold to, guess who? China. And about an equivalent amount of Iran's oil, maybe 80%, gets sold to Iran. So Iran's of the impression they're about to be attacked, and they're gearing up. And if Trump gets control or knocks out Iran and Venezuela, well, China's sucking wind for oil, which means everything falls apart, which means they go to the bargaining table or they go to war. I would say they go to war based on the Bible. But this is, I think, Trump's game with China. Okay. All right. So let me go into the live stream and look at that new format that YouTube forced on us, which is horrible. The changes they make in technology these days are normally worse than what things were before. And I think that's just Satan punishing us. Okay, let me see if I got any going on in the live stream that I need to deal with. I'll discuss who's going to help Venezuela and how. I got it all worked out for you. There's several countries. I'll discuss who's going to help Venezuela and how. I got it all worked out for you. All right, I'm going to put a post up in the chat, and then we'll get going. So I feel a lot better today. Thank you for all the prayers about that tooth and gum thing I got that I brought on to myself by eating dried pineapple for 2 days in a row. I was stupid. I was eating some popcorn last night, and I actually was able to, it was soft, but I tried chewing it on the tooth to see what would happen, and nothing. It was fine. I'll be done with this in a second. We'll get going. I think it's important that we understand why Trump delayed the war, so we understand that it looks like there probably really and truly is going to be a war against Venezuela. Okay. You just, everything's good. All right, I'm going to, being a Bible believing site, Old and New Testament, I'm going to do some praise and then we'll get going. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 All right, so let me get my notes and we'll start digging into this and we'll cover other things that are relevant. What I try to do, you could call being a watchman, but I don't title it, but Yeshua told us to watch. And he didn't mean to watch the Super Bowl or, that kind of thing. It was, watch the world events for the signs. So you know the season, you know what's going on. So there's a huge amount of news I have today. Let me start with prayer requests. The first prayer request, so I don't forget as we get wrapped up in the news, because it's quite profound today. Pretty good news anyway. Prayer requests. The first one's for RM, Romeo, uh, Mike, RM. I'll pray and you guys can agree. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, I pray, my Heavenly Father Jehovah, for RM, for strength and comfort. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. Okay, that was the prayer request. I have another one. My Heavenly Father Jehovah, I pray for TH, Tango Hotel, TH, Tango Hotel, for strength and courage dealing with neighbors that the actions of the neighbors don't bother TH. Okay. So, my Heavenly Father Jehovah, I pray for TH, Tango Hotel, for strength and courage and wisdom dealing with the neighbor, and the neighbor doesn't bother TH or the dwelling. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. And let's do a toss for related neighbor, AB, Alpha Bravo. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, I command you unclean spirits to come out from AB immediately, never return unto AB again. And I bind all you unclean spirits from going into AB or appearing to this person, guiding them, leading them, directing them, helping them, assisting them, using any means at your disposal, you're bound from doing. For 1 year continuously, beginning now, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. And you believers can agree with that also. If you're not a believer, there's not much point in agreeing. Okay. So I'll bounce around a little bit, but we'll focus heavy on Venezuela. So Benny Gantz, a political leader of the Blue and White Party in Israel, is accusing Netanyahu of using this request for a pardon as some sort of ploy to push legislation through to free the ultra-Orthodox from the draft. I disagreed with that. Netanyahu is dead serious with this pardon, and Trump even threatened to put sanctions on members of the judiciary if it doesn't go through. So what it looks like is that Trump has been, talking with Herzog, I believe, well, he's not announcing it. That's the president of Israel. Netanyahu's the prime minister. The prime minister is a higher office. The president would probably come under that. And he's the one that issues the pardons. So Trump's been encouraging Herzog to do it. Now he's threatening sanctions, which means any bank that uses the SWIFT system has to close their account and freeze it, which would be every bank in Israel. So, what they would have to do is bank through a relative. It would be a serious harassment, but a friend of a relative, they would transfer the money into his account or her account, and they would use their credit card, and they would operate their bank, through them or something like that, like the guy could write him a check from his account with his own money, and then the guy goes to the bank, produces his ID card, and hands him the check. And I don't think they would check for sanctions. I've never seen them do anything like that. They would probably just cash the check, All right. The pardon is not supposed to be done unless there's a guilty verdict, but there is a case going back into the 1980s where it did happen without a guilty verdict per se. I'll cover that in a little bit. The Caribbean allies helping Trump against Venezuela. This is not the other way around. The Dominican Republic and Trinidad Tobago are hosting U.S. forces and facilities, and Grenada is considering it. Grenada is a not such a nice place. Neither is the DR, but the Marines put up a big radar in Trinidad Tobago, which at one point is only 7 miles from Venezuela. So this is a very serious radar that's used for surveillance as well as guiding airplanes in, and I assume directing missiles and rockets, or not rockets, missiles. And it's also used for surveillancing the water, maritime surveillance. So this is probably an over the radar thing, and the Marines are mostly involved in this action in Venezuela, and they built this big radar thing down there. It's operational now. It's a big, serious radar thing. So that was one of the delays, I believe, in this situation with Venezuela. Now, Trump did have a phone call with Maduro of Venezuela earlier last week. He just announced it recently. He said the phone call wasn't good, it wasn't bad, it was a phone call. We're told by insiders that Trump told him that for the sake of his family, he ought to leave Venezuela and he would have free passage to Russia and his family and everything. So what he was saying is you could take your money with you. Just get out of here, you know. We don't see any signs of Maduro doing that. And there's rumors Maduro's jet flew to the border with Brazil, and Maduro made a brief visit up to the border and then came back. And the rumors are flying because they got it on the tracking radar that he fled to Brazil, but that doesn't appear to be truth at all. This is just people with fear mongering, selling you survival supplies or getting clickbait on you or something like that. No basis. Puerto Rico is helping, the United States because they basically are the United States. Okay. The U.S. Virgin Islands could also be deployed, but I think they're further north than from Puerto Rico, so they're not that close. See, my opinion, and there's probably at least 1 million Israelis that think like me, is that Netanyahu is a horrible person and we got to get rid of him. Okay? And he's no friend of Israel whatsoever, not even close. He's a friend of himself and staying in office. And Trump wants him in because Netanyahu pretty much does whatever Trump wants. That's what it's about. I heard a rumor that the word pardon wasn't used in the request of Netanyahu to Herzog, but I believe that's false. I believe that it did use the word pardon. That's what he's after. There's no other procedure that anybody knows about. Um, Netanyahu is dead bent on not coming forward and saying he was guilty, nor getting a pardon for staying out of political life forever. Um, he's saying his purpose is to allow him to continue fulfilling his role with even greater effectiveness. Yeah, but his role is not with the God of Israel. His role is with the enemy. That's the problem. And every single day he lies to us about what he is. Uh, Now, so the radar was one factor in what I would say Trump postponing the war. The other factor is the Gerald Ford aircraft carrier is now in the Caribbean, so it's in position. I think it just very recently got into position. And there also was a phone call last week with Maduro. So that could have been a third piece. He wanted Maduro to know that he would have safe passage to fly to Russia, which means he could get the money out of there and live happily ever after. Now, he might still go to Russia. How could he go to Russia? Well, how would you move a spy around? Russia sends a submarine to Venezuela and picks him up, and that's it. You think they're going to go attack the Russian submarine? I don't. Or they put him on a destroyer and he goes to Russia. I don't believe that they would attack the Russian boat or a Russian aircraft. Trump threatening to put sanctions on these senior judicial people who are the ones that oppose this horrible curse on Israel by the name of Benjamin Netanyahu. Is Trump manipulating the politics of Israel? And he shouldn't be doing that. But he does it because he doesn't care. He's the great voice of the daughter of Babylon, and he's the hammer of the whole earth. And people don't want to believe that, but it speaks for itself. Give me a second here. So who the heck is he to force this curse back on us? Sick. This is interesting. You guys with smartphones that are worried about getting hacked. The IDF, that's Israel Defense Forces, is pretty good with cyber attacks. I'd say we're in the top 3 in the world and defending against them. Many companies in Israel have clients all around the world that help them. They help the clients defend against cyber attacks. Lieutenant colonels and higher in the military are no longer allowed to use a Android phone for any official discussions. Okay, they have to have an iPhone. So according to the IDF, who knows what they're talking about, the iPhone is much, much harder to break into and hack than the Android phones. So take that for what it's worth. I don't like Apple products. I don't have secret intel or anything like that. I put everything out on YouTube. What do I got to hide? I don't do financial transactions through the phone. So what are they going to do? Um, So that's something about iPhone. This came from a leak, not really a leak, it was a military order to the officers. The colonels and higher can no longer use an Android for official conversations. They have to use a iPhone. But the regular, now that's not their personal phone. If they have a personal phone to call their wife and friends and kids, the government doesn't care about that. Okay. Regular soldiers are normally not using a phone for official correspondence, apparently. Or if they have one, they have to not use it. I don't know. Pope Leo, the guy who says he's a Christian, right? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, sure he is. Was in Turkey and Lebanon and says that the two-state solution is the only way to get peace. In the year 2015, the papacy recognized the Palestinian state. Palestinian state recognizes a false god, contradicts the Bible, calls Christians infidels, we're like monkeys or dogs, and threatens to kill Israel, and then the Sunday people and the Pope endorses them. Now, yeah, it's going to lead to peace. Well, what happened when we gave them Gaza? What was it, 2008? That was supposed to lead to peace too, did it? I rest my case. The Pope is an enemy of Israel. The Catholic Church is an enemy of Israel. That's it. They did a probe and they found out the Israel police force is going after nonviolent protesters. That's Netanyahu doing this, I would expect. It could be Ben Gvir, or maybe it's him, or both, I don't know. But they're not allowed to do that. We have the right to peaceful protest in Israel. Peaceful protest is not shutting the highways. That's not a peaceful protest. Storming into buildings where you're not allowed in, we're invited in, is not a peaceful protest. Russia, who we would assume is in the know, having probably lots of communications with Maduro, tells the Russian citizens that are in Venezuela to evacuate. And the way I read it, it was like, get out now. That's another sign that there's going to be an attack. Let me tell you something. When you start a war, you never know what's going to happen. You don't know. Mm-mm. When Trump spoke to Maduro, Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, joined in talking to Maduro too. They tried to get an in-person meeting with Maduro in the United States, but that didn't seem to go anywhere. Maduro may figure if he goes there, he'll never come home. He'd be locked up in prison for the rest of his life or something. So I wouldn't think Maduro would do that. He might meet Trump someplace else, but where, I couldn't tell you. It appears that Caracas rejected Trump's offer to get safe passage for him and his son out of Venezuela. So his plane could get shot down because of the no-fly zone, so he can't really leave by plane. He'd have to smuggle himself into another country and then get out from there, which could happen. Some of the financial experts are stating this about gold and silver. They're saying gold's going to hit 8,000 an ounce, and silver they're going to say in the short term $80. I'm pretty sure that'll happen, with a high of $140 to $200 long term. I never thought of it going over 100, but yeah, when you think about it, if gold's going to be $6,000-8,000, yeah, I could see silver getting up to 200. I checked this morning on gold; it was 42.38, and silver was very high, $57.11. So silver's really doing good. Let's give a hand to silver and another hand to gold. Gold's making a good comeback. Will the fighting in Venezuela jack up gold and silver? Very slightly, if at all. But remember this, please. You don't know what will happen when Trump attacks Venezuela. We would be led to think Trump will have an outstanding victory, but we don't know that. We really don't. Don't plan on it being a given that Trump just has a good result from this. It might be a disaster for Trump, okay? I couldn't fully verify this, but it makes sense, okay? It'll come out, but we have independent news reporters reporting on this, which are considered to be unreliable. Like me, I'm unreliable. I'm an independent news reporter. So, Fox and CNN, which are liars and omit stuff, and they're the solid people. Chase JP Morgan, a huge investment bank in New York, said to have delivered $4 billion in physical gold in the recent days. People are freaking out and they want to have the real gold. If you have the paper gold, in other words, you're trading the gold just in the stock markets, it's a commodity, I believe, or you're using the futures or something like that, and war breaks out, what'll happen is the markets will probably close because there could be wild speculation going up and going down. So a lot of times they'll just close the markets. If the internet is out, if power is out, many things could happen that cause the closing of the markets, okay? So if the markets are closed, they may never open, depending how America does. So they gave an ultimatum last week to their entire precious metals department that they have to move to Singapore that week. Singapore does not tax gold coming into the country, just like they don't tax a wire transfer money. It's considered a monetary instrument, I would expect, where they might tax something like orange pulp, which is a consumable product, not like gold. Gold's not anyway, they don't tax it. So their clients can be shifted from America to Singapore for precious metal transactions. And if they want to convert to gold, they could convert to gold in Singapore, and the investment banking house would have to bring the gold into Singapore and there'd be no tax on it. This could also be coming from that idiot mayor-elect in New York. They're afraid that he'll start taxing gold transactions, or who knows what. They may start moving a lot of other operations out of New York as well. They don't trust this guy. Very wealthy people are said to be moving their funds out of America now. Well, this is undoubtedly due to Trump, his policies, his tariffs, and him getting interested in starting wars. You know, if this thing with Russia goes on with Ukraine and America backing Russia, eventually there's just about has to be a war with Russia and America, I would think. So this move was done suddenly and a deep move. So I could understand why this happened. So I'm not so convinced that this is just some bogus news reporting. I think it's probably real news reporting. That somebody just picked up on it, and the media didn't want to run it for various reasons. One of which they didn't want to cause some sort of gold panic and a spike in gold. And they may have asked Chase, JP Morgan, for an official comment, and they didn't give one, so they stayed away from it. They don't want to get sued. Chase, JP Morgan could file a lawsuit and spend easily $3 or $4 or $5 million suing them, so they don't want that. So they're saying that that Netanyahu cannot be pardoned because he hasn't pled guilty or been found guilty. So, but it did happen in the 80s. It was called the Bus 300. This offers some room for a workaround. In the mid 1980s, President Chaim Herzog, that's the father of the Herzog today, that's the president, granted a pardon a preemptive pardon. So, in other words, before being found guilty, to senior Shin Bet, that's sort of kind of in a way like our FBI officials who had killed, captured Palestinian terrorists. That pardon was issued before any trial began and without the officials admitting any guilt. So it did happen. So if it was done once, it could be done again. So they might do it again. I don't know. What I think Trump was doing was telling the judiciary that, the Supreme Court, our High Court, it's not really called Supreme Court, could make null and void the pardon generated by Herzog and say it's not valid. So that's why Trump said sanctions on those people. So it means to me that Trump has knowledge that Herzog is willing to do it. There'd be no point in threatening the judiciary figures if Herzog was unwilling to do it. Herzog's the only person in Israel that could issue a pardon. Dublin dropped the plan to rename the park that was honoring former president because of backlash from the people. So the city council of Dublin shelved the proposal to strip former Israeli president Chaim Herzog, it's the same guy again, to strip his name from a park in Rathgar after critics came on, started speaking out against him. They were going to name the park Free Palestine Park or something with the words Free Palestine in it. People are crazy. They got all involved with Hitler in Germany. They thought it was going to be so great. And, he caused the destruction of Germany. He was that bad. More and more of the Hamas terrorists that were trapped beneath Rafah in the tunnels, they're now crawling out like roaches and surrendering. The other Hamas didn't help them. They're running out of food and water, and they probably ran out already. So then Trump turns around back to Venezuela and declares the Venezuela airspace not flyable. So he can't officially do that. How? He can't. He had the FAA do it. But that only is going to work with, like United and Delta and the airlines, He said that, drug dealers, criminals, everybody should pay attention to it and stay out of the airspace. So what he's saying is if you're in the airspace, you might get fired upon or hit by a missile. That's exactly what he means. Now, the other thing is he set a date. He said that this airspace is verboten, off limits, till March 1st next year. So he's basically December, January, February. He's given himself 90 days. Of course, he could always extend it. Let's see how this goes. Again, don't think all is well with this. You never know what's going to happen in these end times. I expect shocking results to America for this. Watch, wait for it. Remember, when America falls into trouble, and it will, that's when they're going to go after Israel with the siege in Zechariah 12. Because it's Israel, it's America. America is shoring up Israel. Trump and Netanyahu are a horrible team for Israel. Terrible for us. He's going to have us attack Iran. I think he's going to settle into the Venezuela war first. Okay, let's get into who is likely going to help Venezuela and how. The contenders to help Venezuela are Russia, China, Cuba, Iran, and regional neighbors. They have a bloc called ALBA, which is a Bolivia alliance. So, like Brazil, Bolivia, Colombia are ticked off at Trump and will likely try to help they'll try to help Bolivia, but I got to deal with this for a minute. Sorry, I'm by myself, and my wife took off today to go look at some sites in Israel. I'll just be a second. It's something to do with a food delivery. They're asking me what they don't have and what I want to do about it. I think that was it. Okay. Please pray I get my food delivery today. We got this driver that hates me. I don't know where he came from. And twice, the first time he wouldn't deliver the food, and he was screaming and yelling at us. And then the second time, my wife ordered the food for delivery at 6 p.m. and I told her never to do anything past 3 because they're often 4 or 5 hours late. So the guy didn't come at about 10:45 at night, almost 11. I went to sleep. And then my wife saw he tried calling her on the phone 6 times at 20 minutes after 11. Now, who the heck gets a food delivery that late? And it was 5 hours overdue. So, crazy. All right, so let's cut some wood as to what they can and would do. Russia. Russia has reaffirmed. Oh, come on, stop jumping around, you idiot thing. Never buy Apple products anymore is my motto. Russia shipped weapons to Venezuela that are allegedly only to defend against missiles, drones, and aircraft. Now, we don't know if that's completely true. It may have They may have given them offensive weapons like an Orishnik that could reach all the way to New York and Boston. This we don't know. The same with China. China gave them some weapons too, and we don't know if they were just defensive or they're actually offensive. We really don't know. I imagine Trump knows or thinks he knows, and maybe they did not give such weapons. Trump could have said to Putin, you give weapons like that, I give tomahawks to Putin, dozens of them the next day. I don't know what happened. We'll find out. A lot of flights from Moscow to Caracas. Now, they're also speculating that these flights were for spare parts and weapons upgrades. Russia sees Venezuela as a strategic foothold in the Caribbean. If there's a war breaking out, they could use, put aircraft and boats there. Russia did conduct joint exercises with Venezuela, their militaries. We don't know what really happened with Russia giving what weapons to Venezuela. There was a lot of aircraft going there, like convoys, constantly. So we don't know what happened. Russia's anti-aircraft systems are not that good. Ukraine penetrates them all the time. Okay, China. 90% of their oil, 90% of Venezuela oil goes to China. China did warn the United States about military actions, but Trump wouldn't pay attention to that. I mean, China didn't tell Trump, you better leave with your family, we'll give you safe passage. Where, I don't know. And, we're going to kill you and your family. They wouldn't have come on that strong. China does seem to care about Venezuela. How much, we're about to find out. Iran gives Venezuela fuel. Go figure that out, because he's got his own oil, gunboats, and engineering assistance to sustain Venezuela's oil sector amid sanctions. Recent coordination includes drone shipments that can travel 1,000 kilometers, 600 miles. So the American ships are not going to go 600 miles offshore. They might go 100 or something like that, probably less. They'll be more than 25 miles, probably. So this is a serious threat. They've also given them GPS scramblers, global positioning satellite scramblers, to mess up the GPS that America might be using, or anybody else, and passive detection gear. So that's radar type work that'll let them, know that there's something out there, but it's not going to necessarily reveal what's going on to the person that they're detecting. There is a potential that Iran gave missiles to Venezuela. Now, I remind you, during June, the 12-day war with Iran, they had a 17% penetration rate on their missiles launched from Iran. 17% penetrated our Iron Dome, the Arrow 2, the David Sling, and the American THAAD systems. All four systems, 17% got through. They weren't highly accurate, but they got through. You understand? Now, America doesn't have that kind of setup, so it's much less. It could prove tragic. Now, why would China, Iran, and Russia want to give offensive weapons to Venezuela? Well, they know if they do that, Trump is likely not going to declare war against China, Russia, and Iran like that. But you don't know. You don't know what's going to happen with wars in these end days here. Cuba provides counterintelligence, bodyguards, and up to 15,000 advisors for regime security. So they're like special forces guys to camp around Maduro and make sure that American special forces don't get to him. So you got to understand, anybody's military can send their soldiers to the range, 3 days a week to shoot for an hour, okay, and get proficiency in shooting. Anybody's military can get them to go on forced marches with a heavy pack, do pull-ups, do sit-ups, do push-ups, do running up hills, climbing walls, all that stuff. The reason the American Special Forces excel is not because of that, because anybody's army can do that. If they want them to do that, they can do it. It's because the Americans spend so much money on equipment with these special forces. They have helicopters at their disposal for egress and, to go in and to go out of areas. They have planes, submarines, Navy ships, they got landing ships, they got this, that, and everything else. All kinds of weapons. And that's why they excel, not as a result of, doing physical exercises and shooting with guns. If it gets down to shooting with rifles, it's a pretty bad day for the Green Berets or the Navy SEALs. Okay. Cuba apparently offers diplomatic cover and social services to bolster Maduro's grip, despite its own problems in Cuba. Bolivia and Nicaragua are also opposing Trump, and they had a summit meeting in September this year condemning the U.S. aggression to Venezuela. Colombia is against it. Now, they could do things, but I'm not sure what. If all these countries together worked against America, it would probably mean Trump would abandon. Venezuela is relatively easy to pick off. North Korea also pledged support for Venezuela, along with Russia and China. They did that on November 22nd, so that was basically a little over a week ago. So that's another enemy America may pick up helping Venezuela. And Turkey offers diplomatic and financial backing to Venezuela. So Turkey's not going to do weapons or military. So, you got Russia, China, Cuba, Iran, you got Turkey, you got Colombia, Brazil, Bolivia, North Korea, all wanting to help Venezuela. You don't know what's going to happen when this starts. You don't know. Nicaragua could come in and on it too, by the way. Nicaragua is very close with China and Russia. So, guys, we don't know the full extent of who's going to do what and when. It could be they do nothing and let Trump walk all over Venezuela. Or it could be they let Trump start it and Venezuela uses weapons against them that are very effective and sinks ships and takes out planes or whatever they do. I don't know. Venezuela has got a big problem, and this guy doesn't want to run away and, take the money out of Venezuela and probably give 15 or 25% of it to Putin to get to live in Russia. He doesn't speak the language. He doesn't have friends and associates there. A lot of the people that are his buddies and worked with him all these years in Venezuela would get persecuted. I don't think Putin would let the whole gang go. Maybe one or two other people max. Probably not. So he's banking on, Maduro's banking on something. When we look at it, we would be inclined to think that Maduro can't win because he doesn't have the military. He doesn't have it. So I don't know what. Why is he sticking around? He's not a death wish kind of guy. Trump rocked the apple cart. He wasn't doing it. He wasn't playing jihadist or anything like that. So I don't know what is the motivation. I mean, Trump and the drug dealing, is that likely true? Yeah, sure. I mean, I don't think there's too much doubt about that. The problem that Maduro did was these cartel people and others were getting out of prisons in Venezuela and he's sending them up to America, which is a little trick that Cuba did a long time ago. In the 70s and 80s, I think Venezuela got along really good with America. Not so much anymore. So could this break into a World War III? Yes. Could some of these nations want to suck America in down in Venezuela, and then Iran starts attacking in the Middle East, and then Russia starts attacking in Europe, and China starts attacking Japan, Taiwan, and North Korea attacking South Korea, while Trump gets buried or involved too much in Venezuela? Absolutely could happen. So a lot of countries that don't know why they should put up with Trump dictating to the world. And all they got to do is make their minds up that they're going to work together and get rid of America, and America will fall. And that's the story of Isaiah 47 and Jeremiah 50 and 51. Those are the Bible prophecies, and it's going to happen. And it also says that America is in a snare, not Trump, America. So whatever America does doesn't work. Look at Biden, you know, and Trump is not doing well anywhere. I mean, you know, he's doing a bad job. He's failing left, right, and center. But you can't convince people of that. They think he's great because he tells them he's great. So, anyway, this could be the turning point. Remember, prophecy fulfillment is going to greatly involve the daughter of Israel, and then second to that, America. Now, do I know that America is going to go down over this? No. It could be a point of pushing things forward towards the attack on America, or this could be it. I don't know. It's so off the wall. Venezuela attacking, going to war with Venezuela. It's like off the wall. So it's like weird, right? But that would be very much like the way end times goes. So I would say we got to watch this very carefully. And it looks like Trump will attack. I don't know what will happen. If he loses one or two warships to sophisticated anti-ship missiles, he may break off the attack and just go home, like he did with Yemen. Just forget about it, or not. I don't know. He could have given Russia Orishnik missiles. Russia could have given them Orishnik missiles, or China or Iran, something like that, where he could attack America. And then he's going to tell Trump, not with words, with sign language, launch a few missiles into America and tell Trump he better knock it off or there's more coming. Don't think you can't threaten Trump. You can. They could threaten him and he may back off. I don't know what'll happen. Do I think it's rather simple? America's just going to wipe out Venezuela, go in, get Maduro, throw him out, put him in jail, do something like that, then stage elections and have puppets win the election that are going to be pro-America, and then American oil companies will come in, run the oil, and Trump will be taken care of for that, and China gets cut off from that oil. So China buys, I would say 80-90% of the oil from Iran. Let's take a look. I could get that information for you. What percent of Iranian oil does China buy? Roughly 90%. What percent of Russian oil does China buy? About 47%. Now let's break this down. China's a threat to the region and America, economically, war-wise, everything else. So Trump is having Ukraine attack Russia. That cuts the oil supply off for China, right? Right. Trump is going after Iran sooner or later because Iran's violating the sanctions, and they're going to knock that off. Now, there were oil tankers destroyed in the Black Sea recently by Ukraine, and there was some other explosions of Russian oil tankers from the Shadow Fleet in Turkey. I believe there are different events. It could have been the same, but I don't believe so. So Trump is now going after Venezuela. Now let's see what countries China gets their oil from. What are the major countries that China buys their oil from? Russian oil accounts for about 20% of China's oil supply. So basically, Russia, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, Malaysia, so there's a lot of them that China gets oil from. China is starving for oil. They need to get oil all the time. So they got a lot of sources. But if you hinder Russia, Iran, and Venezuela, you're going to hurt China badly with oil. I would say you'd probably, let's see. Let me see if we can get, well, I'll just take it. It's probably about 50% of their oil would, if you hit Iran, Russia, and Venezuela, I would say you're probably in the vicinity somewhere around 50% of the oil China buys, 40% maybe. A good a good amount. Even if it's a third, it will affect China heavily. And then Trump could persuade other countries not to give oil there. India could take that. Let's see where India buys their oil, because they're a big consumer too. What countries does India buy their oil from now? Russia, they get about a little more than a third of their oil from Russia. Iraq, they get about 23% from there. Saudi Arabia, UAE, and the United States, but they get about 6 to 7% from the United States. So yeah, this is an interesting thing. Trump would hurt. Let's see if we can get a figure for this. Hang on a minute. Wrong. What percentage of all their oil imports, referencing China, come from Iran, Russia, and Venezuela combined? Russia's 20%, Iran is 14%, so that is 34%, and Venezuela is 3.2, so it's 37% of their oil. So it's more than a third. Believe me, that hurts. That hurts. Could they pick the slack up from the other countries? Probably. But it hurts. It messes them up. See, there's sanctions on Venezuela and Iran and Russia, so they get sweetheart deals. China pays below what it would pay if they went to the UAE or Iraq or somebody without sanctions. You understand? So they get it cheaper. So the price, they could take up the loss of that 37%, but they would pay more. So It's just an interesting thing. I don't believe in coincidence, So things are going to start getting worse and worse and worse. And you guys need to understand that this is not going to drag on forever and ever. These are like the days of Noah and like Sodom with Lot, okay? They didn't believe it was going to happen until it happened, okay? And then it's too late. And that's the way this is going to be. So it's going to come on suddenly, okay? It's going to come suddenly. It's not going to just go and go and go. It's going to happen very suddenly. You got to understand that. It's not going to drag out. I know it looks like it's dragging out, but the Lord's doing so many things at the same time. We could not fathom it or understand what he's doing. His IQ is, I would say, infinite. It's unmeasurable. He just has unlimited IQ. Okay, yeah, if there is really such a thing as IQ. His wisdom has got no limits. Okay, so he's doing so much at the same time we can't grasp it. And he's looking out for so many people and staging and engineering all of this stuff. It's just beyond our imagination how much wisdom this takes. We can't fathom it or understand how much wisdom it takes. Okay? He doesn't take pride in how smart he is and how simple we are. His his main personality trait would be to be generous and loving. That's the path he would love to go on. You understand? I'm talking about Jehovah. He's not, he gets pushed into a punitive area. He doesn't go run out and do it. He doesn't have a need to punish people to show himself how powerful he is. He knows how powerful he is. He doesn't need to go out and display it for himself or anything like that. Okay. Um, these are the it says year of recompenses. That's an incorrect translation. It's a period of time. Shanat is not Shana. It's not a year. It's a period of time. So he has a period of time where he's doing recompenses on the nation over the controversy of Zion. And at the same time, he's not leaving Israel altogether unpunished. I'm quoting scriptures. So he's working it all together. It's not pleasant living in Israel these last years. We had COVID, we had Netanyahu with Pfizer, that piece of garbage, and all the lockdowns and all the other crap he pulled, turning on data over to Pfizer and all kinds of sick things. So, he puts money into weapons, but not the healthcare system. You don't have real homeless in Israel. There's people that are mentally ill that choose to be homeless, and social workers run around and talk to them and try to get them to accept help where they could get housing someplace. But some of these people are just, they don't want the pressure of having a house and rent and utility bills and cooking. They just sleep outside or wherever they do. I don't know. So you don't have that. Do you have places like a soup kitchen? Yeah. Usually you got to apply, but I know there's one in Tiberias. They get the foods from restaurants that at the end of the day, they got leftover food, so they give it to them. And I guess it's the luck of the draw. I don't know what else they get, but right now there's about 1.5 million people in Israel with food insecurity. And I'll tell you, we worry about the food too, with the prices, and the offerings are slim. I got roughly 90% of the people that follow me never give an offering, never did, and never will. And that's it. And I'm not going to change that. They have their own version of the Bible that if you get fed the spiritual things, there's no need to give your carnal things to the person to keep them going so he could help other people too. No, they don't believe that. No, no. So they like to make themselves think they're in the gospel, but they're not. When it comes time to cast their bread upon the waters when they need it, they're going to wake up and realize, uh-oh, it didn't come. Well, now you know why. uh, they think that what's written in the word doesn't come true. Oh, it does. So are they robbing God? Yeah. Do they care? No. They think they're believers. You know, how many people think the Pope's real? I mean, he's recognized the Palestinian state. He wants to give the land of Israel to people worshiping a false god. And people are running around thinking he's a Christian. Are you serious? People are dumb. You have to understand, people are dumb. They fall for this stuff. Satan gets over on them very, very easily. He really does. You got the Catholics, right? Okay, you got 1 billion Buddhists rubbing Buddha's belly as a statue, sacrificing things to Buddha, a statue. You got the Hindus worshiping statues, the woman with 8 arms and stuff like that, right? 1 billion of them. 1 billion Catholics, 1 billion Hindus. You got 1 billion Muslims. Then you got atheists. You probably got 1 billion atheists. Then you got Satan, overt Satan worshipers at the Church of Satan. And you got other crazy fringe spin-off wacko religions that are not spin-offs. And you got that stuff too. Rosicrucians and uh, theo, theosophy and, all this nut. Christian Scientists. You got Mormons. You got all this nutcase stuff, Jehovah Witnesses, and it goes on and on. People are not smart. You got to get that down. Very few. It's a minuscule amount that are going to find it. And then when they do find it very shortly in redemption, there's going to be a falling away again. Now, it appears to me when I read the scriptures, when they get into New Jerusalem, I don't think there's salvation anymore for the people. The ones that stay outside of it, I don't think there's salvation. I don't know. Maybe there is. It's not clear. I can't figure it out one way or the other, but my hunch is not. So I don't know. I can't say 100%, but maybe there still is. I don't know. But they try to kill us at the end. They don't get very far. They surround Jerusalem and New Jerusalem, and the Lord burns the whole universe up. So that's the end of the testing. So this place is a testing place. That's what Earth is. It's a testing place. That's what the whole thing is about. And not a lot are going to make it. If you think, people pouring into the churches on Sunday are the ones, where's their fruit? Where's their good fruit? What is their good fruit, The Pope doesn't like Jehovah. He doesn't, want to fulfill the prophecies of Jehovah. He's off on his own trip with Satan. The Hindus don't seem to give a hoot one way or another about Israel, nor do the Buddhists. churchianity is very veiled against Israel. They don't really do anything to help Israel. People think they do, but they don't. They preach their version of the gospel is all they do. They don't do anything to help Israel per se. They do have some charities. I mean, they go through superficial motions, is what they do. There's Christian Friends of Israel, for instance. We used to call them Christian Friends of Christians in Israel. You know, uh, most of the church world doesn't want to hear anything from the gospel from the Jews. They believe that the gospel is going to flow forth from the heathen nations into Israel. They don't tell you that, but by their practices, that's it. They all seem to have their favorite preacher in Israel from their own country. There's one from Norway that's a big shot. They got Finland guys, I believe. They got British, American. I don't keep up with it. I imagine they got 5 or 6 others. And they come here and they set up shop. I don't know how they get papers here. I don't know what they do. And they set up shop here. They get a building or a facility so people from their home country, if they visit Israel, can drop in. And the guy will tell them what kind of great work he's doing. The guys are normally afraid to talk to Israelis about the gospel because they don't want to get thrown out of the country. So they rarely would do anything like that, you know. I remember once there was this the embassy one. They call themselves a Christian embassy. They gave 100. This is many years ago. They gave $100,000 to an Orthodox group persecuting the Messianic Jews. They gave them $100,000. You're going to tell me they're with Father God Jehovah and Yeshua, not Satan? Are you kidding me? How could you believe that? How in your right mind could you believe that? You think they're morons and they get influenced by people so easily, yet they got enough smarts to raise millions and millions of dollars a year. See, they don't do anything for the believing community in Israel. They just raise money for themselves. Satan puts them here so the money doesn't come to the Jews, to the Messianic believers in Israel. The money goes to the people from the heathen nations in Israel to cut it off from reaching Israel. That's what Satan does. You're not going to find anybody else that's going to tell you that because they won't talk badly against the church, but that's what it's about. So everything's going to shift and it's going to be a whole other world. But I believe Jehovah has so many things he has to balance and put together that it just is taking time. And it's been, if you think it's hard just on you, you're wrong because I communicate with a lot of people. It's hard on just about everybody. I think everybody has problems one way or another with this. Will some of the people fall away? I think some already went. People I used to hear from, I don't hear from anymore. People that used to give me offerings, I don't get offerings from them anymore. I think they're gone. I think there's people that are falling away. And that's, Jehovah's not going to let the real believers fall away so easily. But the ones that were never really here in the first place, that just convinced themselves they were real believers, will fall away. So you've got to just hang on, you know. It's not easy, but you got to hang on. And I keep telling you this, it's going to come unexpected. With the daughter of Babylon, it says in an hour and a day. It's going to happen to her so quick, so suddenly, they're not going to understand or believe it. It's just going to be there. Okay? It's going to happen. And there's people that are building their treasures on materialism, like the ones that listen to me and don't follow the offerings, right? They're going to have their materialism till they're gone. Then they won't have it anymore, you know? That's all that has. It doesn't help you. You can't get to heaven on your Reeboks because Reeboks don't go that far. You ain't getting there on that. You're not getting there in your Cadillac. Cadillacs don't go that far, nor the Rolls Royces or Bentleys or Lear jets or Boeing jets or F-35s or anything. You ain't getting there with all that stuff. Money doesn't get you anywhere. It's not salvation. That's for the heathen. The heathen believe in money. If you're believing in money, you're a heathen. The money in the whole world is garbage, paper, junk. It's going to be gone when the wars come. Can you imagine what's going to happen to the dollar when America starts getting attacked? You know, it'll be pathetic. Like a euro buys about $1.18, 18 cents. The euro will go to, it'll buy $1.79 with $2.25. It'll be junk. The American currency, for the brief period of time it survives after it gets attacked in Revelation 18, it'll be junk. And the gold will fly up. Now, Iran's going to do something, okay? Iran is sucking wind without water. So's Iraq. And they're probably both the same country, Elam, I believe they are. And they both get it in Jeremiah 49, Elam, E-L-A-M. Yemen is Edom, E-D-O-M, and it gets it, and it's never lived in anymore. Who does it is not specifically pointed out, but Elam, Iran, and Iraq it may include a piece of Syria, I'm not sure, they get hit by their enemies in the plural, multiple. So Iran's going to start up. Iran may start, they grabbed, one ship or two ship a couple of weeks ago. We never hear anything about it. I think it was one ship. We don't hear anything about it. What happened to the crew? Did they get returned? What happened to the boat? What happened to the cargo? No. The reliable news sources, Fox and CNN and, ABC, NBC, AP, all this stuff, they don't tell you what happened. Oh, they're the verifiable news sources, but they don't tell you what happened. See, Iran got away with it, basically. So they're getting their missiles ready, their house in order to go to war, and they're going to do that. And they could very likely close the Persian Gulf to spike the oil prices up, and up they would go. And Trump going to war in Venezuela is not, in my opinion, the greatest time to do it, but Iran, not being the brightest lights in the harbor or the sharpest pencils in the box, might think it is. They might think that Trump is too scared to have a fight in Venezuela and then have a fight with Iran while they're feeding weapons to Ukraine at the same time and take advantage. Can you see what I just told you? Do you understand what I just said? Iran may decide that it can start a war in the Middle East, going after closing the Persian Gulf, with mines and their go-fast boats and other things, drones and everything, just shut the Persian Gulf and spike oil prices to break the West, while Trump's engaged in Venezuela, the thinking being Trump will not want to have a war in the Middle East against Iran at the same time they're fighting Venezuela, at the same time they're feeding Russia weapons. They're feeding Ukraine weapons to use against Russia, so they might try it. Russia might take the same line of thought and attack, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, Sweden, Norway, Denmark, I don't know, Poland, Romania, who knows? North Korea could attack South Korea, and China could hit Taiwan and Japan. And then what's Trump do? Do I think it's going to go that way? No. I think America is going to get attacked. But they might be thinking, why should we attack now? Let's get rid of America. Then it's a piece of cake, these wars. If we do it now without attacking America, we're going to have a lot of losses, damage to our homeland and everything else. It's better to just concentrate and get rid of America. And you're going to find many Muslim countries are going to go along with this. And it appears to me the Muslims are the ones that are actually going to be doing the damage in America. So, and others, I don't know exactly everything, but probably not just the Muslim states. So it's coming. And, people are going to go in denial, just like the whole world denied the thing with Noah. And just like Sodom and Gomorrah didn't want to believe what was going to, didn't believe anything was going to happen to them till it happened to them. I don't think anybody was preaching to them. Maybe, I don't think so. Lot? I don't know. So this is, the way it's supposed to happen. They're not going to believe it until it comes on them, like the floods. It started raining. It never rained before. Well, that was the end. Noah closed the door to the ark and was shut. That was the closing. That could be like closing the door to New Jerusalem. So it's going to be that way. You're not going to see it coming. So we could sit here and say, well, it's going to be another year or 2 or 3 or 4 or whatever you think. But it may not be. It may be another day or 2 or 3 or 4. It's going to come off guard. Suddenly, at a moment in an hour, you're not going to know when it comes. You will know the season. Nobody knows the day or hour but Yeshua, but you will know the season. The siege is not ongoing in Israel right now. I think when they get rid of America, or even when they attack America, they'll come after Israel. And they don't even invade Israel, they just lay a siege to it in Zechariah 12. So they're scared of Israel over some things. And if you're a believer in Yeshua, you're going to come to Israel and be part of Israel. It says that in Ezekiel 47, the last 3 verses. You'll be a member of the tribe you sojourn to Israel with, and you'll be treated as a native-born Israeli, and you'll get an inheritance and a piece of land, and your kids, grandkids, great-grandkids, and everybody is part of Israel. And they, all Israel shall be saved. I don't read all the church shall be saved, I'm going to check the live stream. So don't get into despair, because this is, you could say, I certainly would agree, but it's easy for somebody to say, oh, this is just going to go on and on and on and on, and it's not. it's gonna not go on and on and on. What is the belief that to believe in Yeshua and follow the commandments? That's how you get to heaven. It's not just knowing who the Messiah is like they teach in the churches. That's rather insane. So do I know what's going to happen in Venezuela? No. Is it easy to believe they're not really going to help Venezuela? It is. Is it logically, in a secular sense, the way it'll go? In a secular, logical sense, it is. But when you apply Bible prophecy, you get insights that you don't get from CNN and Fox and those people, okay? So we know it's going to happen, and we know we're in the season, and we know Trump's out of control, what he's doing. I mean, he's going to conquer a country. I mean, what is this? He's a goner, okay? And let's see how good the military is. Venezuela doesn't have a good military, we could assume. So we're not going to know from that. China and Russia don't have good militaries either, I think Japan does. North Korea doesn't. They got a lot of stuff, but they're not good militaries. I don't think America's that good either. They got maybe 7,000, 8,000 special forces that are good, but not a whole lot else, So we just watch. All right. I don't want to overdo it with my jaw and my teeth. I still got some swelling here, which is from the bottom of the gum. I don't know what's up with that, but it gets less. It's not getting worse. It's not getting that much better from yesterday either. So I don't know. So please pray for this tooth and gum thing to go away and the swelling. I have no pain now, yesterday and today, nothing. So the word is that if you got an infection, you're going to have pain and it's not going to get better. So I don't have pain, but I'm concerned why I got swelling down here. But when I took the anti-inflammatory last night, it went down a lot. So I guess today I'll take some more anti-inflammatory. And I feel cold a lot, but that would be normally the case when it's cold, So, I don't get hot and cold. I'm not like laying there and covering up with the blanket and then 15, 20 minutes later I'm getting hot. I don't get that. So I don't think that's what's going on. But the house is just cold. I mean, we got concrete walls, concrete ceiling with cold tile and cold tile floors, and the house is built to be about 15 degrees colder than the outside for the hot weather. The problem is in the brief winter, it gets colder than it is outside. You can walk, literally in our winters, you can walk outside and warm up. That's what it's like here. They never figured out that you should insulate your houses. I'd say at least 95, 98% of the houses are not insulated. It makes such a difference. It's not even funny. But what they used to do, they don't do anymore. They had drains in the floor, and they would get a squeegee on a mop stick, and they would have a hose attachment in the rooms, and they'd water the floor down in the morning with cold water, and then push the water down the drain and let it dry up, and then have the windows open so it would evaporate before it got hot in the morning. What that does is it cools down the floor. You put cold water on the tile floor, and the tile is over concrete, so it's cold. It'll cool it off, and it keeps the house cooler. So they would do that every day with the cold water. We don't seem to be doing that much anymore. Those, I think, are mostly houses built a long time ago. The house I'm in goes back to about 48, and it doesn't really have that in the house. So I don't know. You could do it without that. You just spill water on the floor and then spread it out with the squeegee with the windows open in the summer. And, in 15 minutes, the water will evaporate, and that's that. Um, so it works in the summer. The house stays much cooler than outside. But in the winter, the house gets colder than outside. Wonderful logic, isn't it? I found myself a popcorn from America. It's an Amish style. And I put it in the microwave and it just goes the popping, and then it stops popping and it's done. I buy the popcorn in Israel and I put it in the microwave and it's pop, 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 pop. And you got tons of kernels of unpopped popcorn. If you try to get the unpopped kernels to pop, you burn the popcorn. So it's just another example of Israeli crop products. And they don't want you to have the I can't get Orville Redenbacher here. I don't remember what it was like, if it all popped or not. I don't know. But the popcorn we buy here, Israel popcorn, it pops horribly. That's a real problem in Israel. They take the American products and they stop buying them. The big supermarkets do this together so they could buy I had this shipped from America, by the way. I was buying some herbal supplements and they had this and came from there. So they buy, they get rid of it and they use the Israeli products that are junk, and they get a greater profit margin. So if they bring in the American goods, the people would realize the Israeli stuff is junk. Most of the ice cream in Israel doesn't melt like ice cream. I'm not kidding you. It melts like a polymer or something. I don't know what's wrong with it, but that's Nestle. The only real ice cream you can get here is Haagen-Dazs or Ben and Jerry. And there's another one called Magnum where they make ice cream cones specifically. That seems to be real ice cream. But Nestle makes most of the ice cream. And there's tons of it that Nestle makes. And it's full of candy. And I don't think it's ice cream. I don't know what it is. But I wouldn't eat it. I don't know what it is. I bought some organic coffee and I didn't drink it because I had some stuff open, organic espresso, and I think my wife drank it all before I had a chance. She 2 times told me how fantastic it was, but then I got this tooth problem, so I didn't do it. I'm going to try to make some today if it's still in existence. I don't know if it's still there. She might have polished it off. It was a small jar. She loved it, though. She said it was fantastic. I can only imagine. So please pray for me that the gum and the teeth thing heal up and I don't get a fever or anything like that. Okay, I'm probably on the mend. Okay, so I'm gonna get a prayer up for all of us. My heavenly Father Jehovah, B'Shem Yeshua Mashiach, I pray for all the true believers and their household, with me and my wife included. I pray we have your healing and recuperative power to flow through us, and we get healed every day, things that need to be healed. I pray for strength, stamina, and endurance for us. And I pray for us to be safe and secure and happy, healthy, and whole. And I pray for our animals and pets to be safe and secure and happy, healthy, and whole. And I pray for us to understand the scriptures better. I pray to make better videos. I pray for the peace of Jerusalem. I pray you would lift up off of all of us any works of the unclean spirits and the people that serve them, and the same would be done for all the people that watch or listens to this video. And I pray that we would have adequate finances and then some. Thinking. I pray that you would lift from us any strife with coworkers, with neighbors, with employers, with governments, with anybody that's bothering us. You would lift this off so we could live in peace. And I pray all this to you, my Heavenly Father, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. And I don't want to stay on too much longer and get myself irritated or something. So I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach, and I'm out. And if any of you have a need, you want to talk to me or something, I have WhatsApp. Just contact me by email. It's Israel Giving with the number 7, Israel Giving with the digit 7 at gmail.com. Just contact me and I'll explain how WhatsApp works with me and you, and we can go from there, okay? And the email address is at the very last line in the description box if you missed that. And okay, guys, so just remember it's going to happen suddenly. Now, when America goes down, that's the Exodus. And when the Exodus happens, it's already Elijah and Enoch, the two witnesses, burned up the enemies laying siege to Israel. So America looks like it's moving into territory of getting it. And, so don't be discouraged, be encouraged. You're not going to see it plain as day. It comes suddenly, not expectedly. It says suddenly in a day and an hour. So just watch for it. Okay? Now that's the attack on DC. The total destruction has got to take time because the attackers loot and pillage and plunder the whole country and run around killing people and everything else. So that's got to take time. Then you'll get out early on. So just wait for it, okay? I don't have there's no choice. You have to wait for it. So, but the reason is, I can assure you that Jehovah is doing so many things at the same time beyond our comprehension. Okay, I'm out. Thank you.